Buenos dias and salute salutation. This is Mental Alchemy here on the Ineffable Mind. The Ineffable Mind rant. It's probably going to be a rant, and that's cool. That's cool. I'm practicing the art of doing some things, getting more involved in personally some of the things that I've been actually thought about for a number of years. I was very confused about, such as playing around with the tube of view and live streaming. So I think I'm going to start things off progressively and start developing more content from a rant basis, because it's become a very easy thing for me to do. Talking to people on the one-on-one, talking to people in group environments. I like to say that I'm an introvert who knows how to be an excellent extrovert, and so that sector of things have actually been fairly easy. Well, let's pop into it. So as far as everything that I like to talk about on this channel, this is also being streamed to my Facebook, use the StreamYard. It's 2023, right? So it's 2023, and you have a whole new, today's Wednesday, so we're down to what? 51 weeks and a half. So you got 51 weeks and a half to 2024. And the question always is going to remain is, who are you willing to become to get the results that you really want in life? I like to talk about economics. I like to use the term economics versus financial fitness or financial education. It's just a personal preference. That's really all. It's a term that resonates with me the most. And I'm not here to give you any financial advice at all. I'm not a financial advisor, but there are some things that I have experienced and some things that I have developed. I did develop a system. The system is called the Money Matrix Blueprint. It is a reciprocal cash flow system. It's a management structure. And I got this information. Well, I've built on the information actually, because I actually learned about what holding companies were and how things get structured and organized. And if you don't know, I'll share it here. Again, this is a rant, so I'm going to be hitting on various subject matters that are integrated, and then probably I'll actually listen to what I said and then break down different segments into small pockets of segmented information. So this is a rant. I'm a very abstract person, but I'm learning to be more organized. But it's a live stream, so it's just a rant, So that's cool. So Berkshire Hathaway, right? So I was talking to someone about Berkshire Hathaway, and we had looked up how many companies Berkshire Hathaway owns, and I'm gonna tie this into what I was saying. Berkshire Hathaway, I think it says 65. You can do a Google search. You can just ask Siri. How many companies does Berkshire Hathaway own? It's like 65. So Berkshire Hathaway is a holding company that owns operating companies, or the terminology of subsidiaries. We're going to get into vocabulary terms too. So this channel is in essence really for the 20% who want to be 5%ers, or plus those who might not be a part of the 20%, but want to move into the sector of the 20% so they can be 5%ers progressively going forward. Because we're going to talk, because the hard truth is you're not working hard in the right direction. And then you say, well, what is the right direction? Well, the right direction is having enough capital in your personal and or business or entrepreneurial life to is where you have consistent cash flow coming in to offset expenses, save, invest, get insurance, whatever it is that you want to do. You're going to want to buy a car. If we ever learned anything from the STEMI economy, we know that after the STEMI economy ended, people went right back to where they were, right? So, well, how do we prevent that? We prevent that by being economically sound and have an economic organizational structure, right? So I think I forgot my original point, but it's okay. I'm going to just continue. So economic organization, this thing that we call wealth begins with economic organization. Can you manage the money well? And I used to be someone who really was very terrible at this, years ago, until I really started getting myself educated. And as much as we like to talk about, well, I didn't learn it from this person and that person, and they should teach in the school, they're not going to teach in the school, because you can look at the research of, there's documented conversations and dialogue about stories about the Vanderbilts and how they took out accounting out of schools. So you're going to have to be someone who's always constantly expanding your bandwidth. That's what ineffable mind is. The term ineffable means that it's so ostentatious that it can't be spoken. That's what you are. If you don't want to be ineffable, this might not be the channel for you. I will tell you that I am a professional comment blocker. So if you say something crazy or non-ineffable, all right, then, and I'll be diving into more about what that is. That's a term I really like to use. It's a term that resonates with me quite well. And I often share it with people that I love and care about. And I care about you in the most platonic way. I don't care if you're melanated, non-melanated, lightly toasted, almond. It's all good. So anyway, Berkshire Hathaway owns all of these companies. So then there's a systematic approach to this. And what I really care that you enter, under, and understand is that you can do this stuff too. You can have a structure. Your life can be structured because, in essence, you're a business. Okay, so that's first and foremost. You're a business. Because you're a business, you should be economically organized. And to be economically organized, at minimum, we use a 5 checking account blueprint. There's an operating account. There's a merchant account. There's a savings account. There's an investment checking account. I call the investment checking account Latif, the long-term investment fund. Do you have a long-term investment fund? It's just a checking account where you can change the name. And the beauty of the technology that we have today is anytime you create an account, don't you know that you don't have to just look at the last 4 digits of the account? You can change the name to whatever it is that you want. I have a credit builder account. You know what I mean? The consideration of, building business credit is something very significant. And the biggest part of building business credit is to build personal credit. If you're not running, I forgot the number of millions that you have to run through a business account in order to get, approved for these ostentatious numbers. A lot of the stuff that you're seeing in these spaces, I got an email from Marquell Russell. He used the term attention economy. We're in an attention economy. And if your attention isn't hyper-focused on working hard in the right direction, you're going to suffer. And a lot of people are going to suffer. So part of it's awareness, and then some people say it's education, right? The education is out here. So then the question in turn comes to, well, who are you listening to? Who are you listening to? Who are you listening to, and what are they saying? What information are you downloading that is advantageous to you in the approach of wealth development? I'm all for skills. Yes, I do feel and believe that you should develop new skills. You want to start a business, you want to start a YouTube business, any of those sorts of things. You want to start a drop shipping company, all that kind of stuff. You've got thought concepts and ideas. You've been writing things down. You're practicing your art of becoming more aligned with who you really are progressively as you expand, right? You have all of these different experiences. So hopefully some of this information is resonating with you. So again, I'm completely, I told you I'm weaving in and out of different stuff. Anything that comes to mind, I'm just spit it out there, right? So you got 51 weeks. So then what do you want to do? Are you going to start the business? It's a yes or a no. Do you know the verbiage to put in the articles of organization? What if you Google search different templates of what people use? Because you need that. What if you did that? What if you did something like use Logo Software, which is a company that will do, custom design uniforms and stitching. Like, that's where I got this from, right? Logo Software. What if you did that? Why would you do that? Well, you would do it even if you're in the beginning stages so that you have something physical that was, in essence, just an idea, spiritual, metaphysical, so that you could develop your confidence. This is really a game of confidence. It's a game of confidence of knowing a thing and practicing the thoughts, attitudes, and habits, and then taking action based upon your awareness of what to do to get you to where you really want to go. So where do you really want to go? Well, most people, I would imagine, again, 20% to want to be 5%ers, you enter, under, and understand that you want reciprocal cash flow because you're always going to be buying. And so while people talk about investing and they invest in stocks and all this other kind of stuff, and I think that's great. I feel and believe that you should do that. But I just find it very interesting that most people actually hyper-focused on talking about investing for the future. What I like to talk about is why don't you have an expense retirement plan in your current time? If you're already going to be working a W-2 job, if you're already going to be working side hustles, gig economy work, and all that other kind of stuff, doing hair, doing nails, doing lashes, babysitting, maybe you do some sort of art design and so on and so forth. Whatever it is that thing that you do, did you ever think that you could have an expense retirement plan in your current time frame? So depending on how much money you're making, since the average American makes, it's less than 37K, let's put it at a smooth $40,000 for 40 years is $1.6 million. So let's say you hit the 2 million marker throughout the whole course of your working career. Whatever it is that you did, boom, $2 million, right? What did you do with that 2 million while you were living? Well, what I'm bringing to the table is a very nuanced way of thinking. And so I know it's going to take quite a time to get people caught up to speed. I'm talking about retiring your expenses in your current present time. And we do that through investing. We do that through having a monthly and quarterly dividend stock portfolio. I like a 70-30 split, meaning 70% are monthly and then 30% are quarterly. Because there's some companies that they're just going to be here. They're just going to be here. But if they're not here and they're going south, I mean, I remember Singular Wireless, right? Singular Wireless, I believe, is bought by AT&T. So whatever spectrum, at least if you were in that space, and if that's something that you chose to do, to start buying businesses, because that's what it is. Even Warren Buffett said it, that that capital could be deployed to where every time you get a dividend payout, you transfer it to your operating account and subsequently bills, which is really offsetting expenses. You're going to do that for the rest of your life. An expense retirement plan. And I know for a fact, if you are watching this and you're a part of the Mid-Atlantic community, you are only about if you have a stock brokerage account, period, outside of your, Roth or future investment accounts, you're part of 1.6% of the population, of the melanated population. 1.6. Something to think about. But have you ever thought about, what if you retired your expenses and then created an expense retirement plan for your children? So you could retire your kids' expenses before they had adult expenses. So all they would have to hyper-focus on is what? Getting a home, getting real estate, and then expanding their bandwidth on creating their own expense retirement plan built on the work that you already did. What if you did that? What if you thought that way? What if you felt that you could actually do it? You can. You can do it. And if you need help, I'll help you. So let's move on from that. So economic organization is the foundation. Oh my gosh, I'm going to talk about all the boring stuff. I'm going to talk about the boring, what I like to call the boring, sexy stuff. The boring, sexy stuff is where it gets you to really where you want to be. It's something that I learned the hard way because I wanted to expand faster than my ability to perform to get the goals that I wanted to reach. You're going to need way more than just really great thoughts and ideas. I don't care what it is you want to do. It could be a business. It could be real estate and so on and so forth. There are 3 C's to economics: clarity, cash flow, and confidence. And that's what you want. Whatever sector of education that you're involving yourself in, that's what you want. Okay. So we got economic organization. We talked about the 5 checking account blueprint. If you want a copy of the 5 checking account blueprint, go to my website, www.mentalalchemybrands.com. And there'll be a little pop-up that comes up. Utilize the pop-up that comes up, put your information in there, and boom, you'll get it. Okay. Could be very advantageous to you. So if this information resonates with you, my biggest thing is only listen to me if the information resonates. If it doesn't resonate, leave it alone. You'll have many people, you should have many people of different thoughts, concepts, ideas, and strategies and implementation to help you reach your goals. You are the money. You are the money. Every dollar that you've ever made has come from you exchanging, for the most part, for the majority of us, your time and energy for it. I still have full-time employment myself. And we already kind of went through the analogy of 40K times 40 years is 1.6. And that doesn't include, that's gross, not net. So that's a whole different conversation. But, we might get into that at another time. Economic organization, 5 checking account blueprint. Boom, you can go ahead and get a free copy of that. Yes, you will, on an average, get a few emails. I'm building my email list. I'm going to do that. Okay, so that's going to happen. So, because if you need help, you can get the help that you need. We're removing excuses in 2023. And what I like to care about is the people who want to get started doing a thing. They want to get started doing a thing. You can call it a passion. You can call it dream. Whatever terminology that resonates with you, keep that. Because this is a head, heart, hands kind of thing. Awareness, bring it into your head. Mull over it, meditate on it, start to practice the habits of doing a thing that allows you to get it where? In your heart. And then you become inspired to do what? Take action. And take more action, and then expand. And then this thing that we call success, I like to use Earl Nightingale's definition of success. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Always loved that, even when in my early 20s. Always loved that. I've always kept that and remembered it, by heart. And that's important because you're a business. At least you're a person. And the definition of person can be found in 28 USC 3002, subsection 10. A definition of person. There are multiple definitions of persons. This isn't legal advice, but I just care that you think about the significance of words, right? Because words create worlds, and that's very important. But look at the definition for yourself. Typically, when you type it in 28 USC 3002, and you scroll, well, first of all, there's a lot of other vocabulary terms there that you want to become familiar with. And the reason that I always like to talk about it from that place marker is, I like to talk about it from that place point is because it should help to change the way that you think. Everything we're doing is commercially based. So if you can adopt from what I like to call universal level, if you can adopt the philosophy and the ideology that you're a business, then that means that you can start to behave and think in a pattern that's congruent and aligned with that. And what I like to say is you're the Fortune 500 CEO. You're the CEO of a Fortune 500 company called your life. And if you say that to yourself, say it to yourself, you're going to feel good about that. You're going to feel really good about, I'm the CEO or the president of a Fortune 500 company called, place name here, International Ltd or LLC, whatever it is that you want to call it. Because you got to start there. You got to start this stuff at the universal level. That's the progress. That's where a lot of my progress began. I had to believe it for myself. You got to find a way to believe it for yourself. Whatever economic strata that you're a part of, whether you're part of the average American income, the 37K and beyond, 40, 50K, because I talk to a lot of people who make really good money as I do, but they don't have any concepts they don't have the know-how, and they're unwilling to either one, exchange their time for the education to begin implementation, or they don't want to exchange their money for the education to get the implementation to shorten the educational curve. That has nothing to do with you. So what do you want to do? Are you willing to do that? You can do and be anything you want as long as you're willing to become someone who deserves it. Right? Just some food for thought. Again, this is about expanding your mental bandwidth, not contracting. And speaking of contracting, there's people who are in the FIRE movement. What is it? Financial independence, retire early. So they live a very contracted lifestyle. And there are people talking about don't get the coffee in the morning and this and the third. I'm saying, why don't you create an avenue to be able to offset the expense of the things that you want? I hyper-focus on expansive thinking, feeling, and ideology. Expansive. I want you to expand. You are the money, so you should be building a bank. And what do banks do? Do banks loan money? The answer is yes, you should loan money. Like, I can loan money? Yeah, you can. Now, there's a higher level of loaning money, like, 5, 10, 15, 20K. You can have it. You can work your way up to that. I don't have that level of expertise, but I'm interested in learning more about that process and the spectrum of, contracts, because you're going to have to be willing to sue, and there's some, I know for a fact there's going to be some strategies and SOPs there, standard operating procedures, on what that looks like. But from just a very generic baseline, have you ever thought about building a bank? And so that's what we're all really want to do in some way, shape, or form, whether you're saving or investing for the future, whether you're retiring expenses in your current time, whether you're doing educational development to be able to set your kids up. That's what I like to hyper focus on. It's, it's a very significant part of who I am and how I think. Then these are things that you can start to think about so that you can cultivate the feeling. I am the money. And I like to speak on things that are very simple and pragmatic because this is something that you can remember. You are the money, so build the bank and be mindful of how you spend yourself, your time, energy, and resources. Okay? Your time, energy, and resources. And deploy your capital, your money soldiers, your USD soldiers in a very pragmatic way. We want to do things that are, I don't know if commonsensical is a word, but it's a term that I like to play around with. Commonsensical. In a commonsensical way. Just pragmatic things. Right? Pragmatic. Baseline. I'm gonna talk about all the boring the boring sexy stuff. Pragmatic. I am the money. I'm gonna build a bank. I'm gonna be consistently mindful of how I spend myself. And in this process, I can retire my expenses as I go through life and I'm making money through employment in various means. So progressively going forward, my life can be cheaper, right? And if my life is cheaper, even if I'm still making that same amount of money, and the first rule of money is to make more money, by the way, it's always going to be the same. The second rule of money is to understand that there is no money. There's just negotiable instruments with rules. Learn the rules to play the game. Learn the rules to play the game and win, because all money is not the same. All right, we'll talk about that later. Because you're still going to be dealing with taxes, and taxes are part of the game. They're not going to go anywhere. The goal of taxes is to have the capital to do what? Offset any expenses or debt. All right. So, where was I? I told you it's going to be very abstract, but it's all good. And if if this kind of stuff piques your interest, like, share, subscribe, and all that kind of good stuff. We're just out here doing it for fun. I think there's some people that need to hear this kind of stuff in a very particular way. Because if you're like me, you're an abstract thinker. You just might not how to. You always got your head in the clouds. You're always in your imagination. You're always building stuff in your head. But when it comes to what we like to call manifesting, it's very hard to get it from your head to the heart, out to your hand, so that you can actually see it materialize in what we call the real world. Our objective is to live in the real world and not in the land of Delu, in the city of Shun. Okay. Yes, I wear my Oregon. I've got Rushok beads on. I love all that kind of stuff. But those are personal things, personal identity markers for myself. And there are various things that I do and that resonate with me. Right. So, anywho, I guess that's pretty much it. That's really it. This was again, more of a rant. So I want to overload. I mean, I am into alchemy, so I'm going to overload you. It's like, what did he say? That's what my son says. What did he say? But just to recap, you are the money, build a bank. If banks loan money, you can loan money. I use groundfloor.us. That's really what I wanted to segue into. I will put the link in the description. You can probably find YouTube videos on it. Use my link and start loaning out money. What if you, like I do, what I like to talk about and teach and share, what if you bought these notes? We'll talk about, I will go in depth, but they're just basically, you're the third party to a transaction between groundfloor.us and a company. It has to be a company. They don't do business with natural persons. They do business with entities. Well, this particular type of entity, a company or LLC. And basically, Ground Floor says, and I'll dive into it again and I'll go over this information again, because I know people don't even know this stuff exists and how simple this stuff is. But before I get off here, I'm going to share why it's so significant in the spectrum of how you think, feel, and believe. Right. All right. So what Ground Floor does is groundfloor.us. I will put the link in the description. Check it out. Sign up, and don't just use the sign up. I think I get some sort of redemption. You get a redemption too. Don't just sign up and then I see all these names in here, and then you don't take the next step and actually buy a note. Don't do that. Don't do that. If you think, feel, believe that you're not going to do it within 72 hours, leave it alone. All right, leave it alone. Okay. Groundfloor.us. I'll say it this way. Mikey LLC. That's about Impala. Impala LLC Realty wants to do a fix and flip, right? So Impala LLC wants to do a fix and flip. They go to Ground Floor. They're like, hey, I found this parcel, and it's 12345 Main Street, and they have, let me use an example, $20,000 to collateral, right? And Ground Floor is going to look over those in their financials and so on and so forth, and they're going to give Impala Realty LLC a grade, okay, A, B, C, and even D. I've seen Ds. And so kind of like a credit rating, basically. So what Ground Floor will do, they say, okay, you want to get, how much do you need? I'm just making an example. They're like, oh, I just need like 100,000, right? And in this market, it's pretty much like a seller's market, even though things are starting to kind of taper off a little bit. But just for conversation, very general, right? Just a very general anecdotal overview. Ground Floor says, hey, look, okay, we like the figures. The after repair value looks really good. The after repair value, they need 100,000. They're going to fix it up, and depending on whatever market they're in, they're going to do what? They're going to sell it more than likely. If it's a fix and flip, that's just the general purpose. So if they only need $100,000 to get in the door, to get all the permits and gut it out and put the electrical work in and do all of that kind of cool stuff and put it back on the market, well, they're going to be done in what, maybe 6 months, 8 months. It doesn't take a lot of time. And plus, Impala Realty LLC does this for a living. This is what they do. Well, if they borrow $100,000 and they're paying back the money, and then they fix the house up to where the after repair value, in this example, let's say the after repair value was $350. Well, if they sell it for $350 and they pay back the $100,000, what's $350,000 minus 100? That's $250. So that's $250,000 in their pocket. Very generic overview. Then Ground Floor says, hey, well, look, hey, Mike, John. So I have this contract, first lien position, by the way. What is first lien position, by the way? That's important. First lien position means that if Impala Realty LLC doesn't, if they default on this contractual agreement, then Ground Floor can foreclose. So it's a first lien position. That lien supersedes any other encumbrances on said property or parcel. So Ground Floor, so that's important for you to know. That's significant. That's why I like doing it. That's why I've been doing it for like 3 years. So then Ground Floor says, hey, look, I have this contract with Impala Realty LLC or whatever. And here's the specs. They gave me $20,000 of collateral. The aftermarket repair value is, $350,000. Do you want to invest in this? If you invest in this, based upon Impala's rating, I'm going to give you a percentage, right? I'm going to give you a percentage. So it could be 8, 9, 10. I've seen 11, 12. I've seen even 14%, depending on whatever the grade is. Obviously, if Impala Realty LLC has a higher grade, meaning they have an A class rating, they have their own grading algorithm. I don't know all of what that entails. Well, then you would get a lower interest rate. You get a lower interest rate, right? So A, B, C, and D. Maybe you get 8% and they have an A class rating because they're paying less interest. If it's a B class rating, you get a little bit more. You might get 9 or 10%. With all that said and done, here's the crux. Ground Floor allows you to do this for $10. What? $10? $10. So I can buy a note for $10. and I can earn 9 or 10% or $10. Yeah, you can. Man, that's awesome. I know. The only consideration is, why aren't you doing it? If the banks do it, you should do it. Banks buy tax liens. That's another conversation. Why aren't you doing it? I'm learning I'm getting back in the education to that. I've been sitting on some education for tax liens and tax deeds for a considerable amount of time, but I'm going to start deploying that as part of my strategies as well. So these are some of the things that you think about. I am the money, so all I need to do is build a bank. You want to have consistent cash flow coming in. And the point that I wanted to make before I go is, what if you took 50? It doesn't even matter where your economic strata is, but I mean, if you're below 50K and you want to test this thing out, do it for the feeling. Do it for the feeling first, to lower your anxiety. Do it for the feeling, but do it consistently. So what it'll look like, and of course, the more you make, the more that you can do, right? $50 a month, 50 times 12 is what? 600. So that's $600 a year. What does it look like in reality? Here's the reality. If you did 50 times 12, that's 600. If you got 10% cumulative of all your notes over the course of a year, you'd be making your principal back, which is the 600 plus $60. That's really how interest works. That's what it looks like. That's how it works. You say, well, then that ain't no money. Well, why would I do that? You do it because you're developing the habits that you need. You need new habits and new ways of thinking. And that's what we're going to talk about here. So I'll put the link in the description. I encourage you to do it for the feeling. Do it for the feeling of you becoming your own bank. And there's no excuse to not be able to invest $10. It doesn't make any sense. It's too easy. And you develop your investing muscles. You're like, dang, I could do 20 a month. I could do 30 a month. And what'll happen is, if you do it consistently every month throughout the whole year, I know y'all like, ooh, he giving away gems. I can't stand that terminology, gems. I'm sorry, I really don't, because the gems don't matter if you don't take any action. It's inconsequential. I care about the principle. This is money mechanics. These are principles of money mechanics. If you're doing a thing such as this on a regular, consistent basis, i.e., once a month, over time, what will happen is those notes will start to redeem principal plus interest that you can actually transfer back into your bank account. Look at you. What? You could probably beat your CD. I haven't done the math on it, but I do have a CD with Navy Federal. But anyway, all right. Look, that's all I'm gonna say. I love you all in the most platonic way. This is Ibn Alameen. I go by Mental Alchemy, and we'll talk a little bit more about some things so that you can get to know me better and what I care about. And we'll leave it there like that. I'll save something for the next time. All right. Love you all in the most platonic way. Cheers.